Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
As part of a small line of pieces we're doing that are kind of pin-up-y type shots where they're a little bit rougher and simpler with just a portrait of a figure, no background, I want to do something to complement the piece I did earlier with Wonder Woman, and Starfire is another favorite of mine from DC, and in particular the way she was designed by George Perez, the way she appeared for, I want to say, the first 20 years of her existence before she was changed by a cartoon version that kind of took away a lot of the alluring qualities to her that were in her initial DNA. So there's a very distinctive face, hairstyle, and vibe from her when she was first created in 1980, and I wanted to connect with that.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. We're talking comics, but we're also talking about Netflix new Masters of the Universe series, Revelation. Kevin Smith, the showrunner for that and head writer. Joining me, Masters of the Universe expert, a man who has traveled very much in the footsteps of He-Man. It's Tim Seeley. Good to see you, Tim.
Good to see you. I didn't realize I did actually team coordinate for this. I thought if I've done this with you enough, I was like, oh, I should do product placement behind me, but I didn't realize I was also doing the wardrobe. So nice job, Tim.
See, I've got my Fred Flintstone Water Buffalo Union lodge shirt on that I'm very proud of. It's like it's got to be subtle, you know. I like the fact that nerd T-shirts are all the rage now, but I like the subtle ones where it's like, I know what that is, and it's like very good. All right, excellent, man.
Yeah, because we've got, now you have to combine two things to make a new T-shirt, right? It's like now it's both Doctor Strange and like some obscure '70s band put together, and now you got to figure out what the reference is.
Pretty much, man. Well, don't worry because I've got you covered product placement wise. Because another reason, as I'm scrolling around looking for my photos here, another reason why I wanted to have you on is as recently as 2019, you, sir, were the author of a great Masters of the Universe crossover, the Injustice Masters of the Universe, you and Freddie Williams.
That one, and I also did Masters of the Multiverse.
Wow, yeah.
I did two Masters of the Universe books. And yeah, I mean, I've worked on that recently at DC, and then I also did I did some of the mini comics that came with the figures. I did the 30th anniversary ones, and I also did the ones that came with the, I actually have it back here. Ones that came with the new Origins figures, I did that one too.
No, and of course, you and your brother, authors of a great coffee table book, The Art of the Masters of the Universe.
Oh, yes. Yep, there we go. Yes, and we both worked on She-Ra as well. We worked on the She-Ra.
Yes.
Yeah,
so we got a good Masters of the Universe expert here. Have you watched the whole series, 5 episodes so far?
I did 4. In prep for this show, I just finished the 4th one. I meant to do it this weekend, but the wife and I got watching that Nicolas Cage movie Pig, which is amazing, and you should watch it because it's not what you think it is. And then I didn't get around to watching He-Man, so because I wanted to watch it with the kid because she's 2, and I figured this is a good enough age to introduce her to. But by the time we get around to it, she's already OD'd on Little Baby Shark and stuff. So I just had to binge it right now. So yes, I'm 4 out of 5. I'm ready to talk about it.
See, I keep thinking of the Contessa as a little baby and stuff, and I keep forgetting she is 2 years old now. Wow.
Now she can. Today she discovered just stripping and running naked for no reason. That was today. every day she learns something new and terrible. It's pretty much what it is.
Well, a couple months ago, you posted that great video of you doing the little dance that was just delighting the hell out of her, the little clumsy dance.
Yeah, she loves it. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to make myself look really fucking stupid.
And everybody, Tim's daughter's name is Valentina. And immediately my mind went to, of course, Nick Fury's girlfriend, the Contessa. So I always call Valentina as the Contessa. Oh, Paula doesn't mind that I call her.
And now she's Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So that worked out perfectly. It's almost like I planned it. But, yeah.
Almost, man. Absolutely. Wow. All right. And it's great because I'm already getting interesting comments about the show. Nerdette says, loved your Masters of the Universe Multiverse and love Kevin Smith's show. How dare me? Absolutely. Yes. Lots of controversy, Tim, right now. In fact, so much so that Andrew Wyatt says they need to go ahead and release the remaining 5 episodes right now. Good luck, Netflix, man. I think you got at least 12 months, if not, I would say maybe 6 months if you're lucky, but I'm betting like it's going to be a year or so before you see it, unless the buzz makes them drop it sooner.
You know, I didn't really pay attention to what the release schedule is on these. And obviously, to some degree, they were, because I first heard about it, I guess, when I first started working on Injustice. But when they announced it was, about 2 years ago, basically this week, because it was at PowerCon the last time we had one of those. But obviously, COVID messed up the release, so I don't know exactly what their intent is for release. But obviously, it's also a good thing to like stretch this out, and as far as their process, give you something to binge, but also give you a little bit of time to talk about it and build some hype, and then release the next one. It's pretty smart.
I agree. I heard another comment about you. Dennis Hoffman says, I've been a Seeley fan for years. He drew me a Jack Kraken a decade ago. Only He-Man stories I've read have been his Multiverse and Injustice. Love them both.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
At DC, dude, people need to chill. I love He-Man. I even still have my old coloring book from when I was a kid. The show was great. Yeah, a weird timing because, I'm going to Terrificon this coming weekend in Connecticut. And the man who wrote the first He-Man comic book, Paul Kupperberg, when he showed up at DC Comics Presents and everything.
Now I'm sad I'm not going to that show because I actually need to have Paul sign my stuff. One of the first comics I ever got. You and I have talked about this before, but Master Universe is sort of my it's my entry drug into comics because it came with comics. And I lived in a town where comics were not super easy to get, but they came with an action figure, which was easy to get. And then after that, after I got those He-Man mini comics, then I went searching for a comic. And one of the first Superman comic I ever got for sure was the Master of the Universe DC Comics Presents He-Man versus Superman, which blew my mind as a kid because I didn't even really know. I knew who Superman was because everybody knows who Superman was, but the concept that comics could contain like crazy crossovers, that I melted my head. So, I for years there also was one that there's an ad for Master of the Universe, the comic that eventually came out from DC in Firestorm. So I remember I had that too. So that kind of was my entry, one into comics, then into DC. Obviously the reasons for me to have affection for it are wide. It's just interesting to me to kind of look at it now and see, when I got the assignment to do Injustice vs. Master Universe, I was like, well, I could just quit after this, right? I mean, like I'm doing He-Man fighting Superman. Like that was, that was my first stuff. Like, it's pretty awesome. I feel very lucky that I've got to work with this stuff so much, so much, I guess.
No, that's fantastic. And again, that's why I'm talking to you tonight. And I think I'm the best lab rat that almost can come unbiased into watching Revelation because I was too old to really get into He-Man. I was at this point. I'll be honest. I was trying to get laid at this point.
Yeah, right.
It's like late teens and stuff. It's like, yeah, listen, you guys go watch He-Man and Thundercats and Transformers. I'll be trying to date girls. Take it easy. And that's fine. I was an older teenager.
But they were those cartoons. I mean, the thing is that it's hard to sort of put in context for people younger than us, but they used to make those cartoons just for kids. They were not meant to be watched by adults. They were gobbledygook for adults, right? Like, and then by the rules of when these things came out, right? Before Reagan, you couldn't advertise a toy line with a cartoon. It was illegal. So Reagan deregulated the FCC. And so that era is the first era of this mass like we're going to do an animated series and it's going to exist to sell figures. That was new in 1982. That was completely a new thing. So a big part of this is like people loses context, right? This is a show. It was, also the other thing people forget about the original cartoon, it was made in the United States. It was animated in the United States. Nothing is animated in the United States. So Filmation, before, they eventually sort of had to give it, the owner of Filmation fought to keep animation in the United States. So it is one of the last cartoons to be completely 100% animated by American animators before they started shipping things to China and Taiwan and Canada, everywhere, right? So context-wise, and they used to do a shit ton of episodes. I think the first season has 56 episodes? I don't remember exactly, but it has a whole bunch.
Because it was 5 days a week.
It's 5 days a week. So, like, context-wise, everything, I try not to be frustrated about it, but when I see people like, on both sides of the stupid argument about whatever this good, the one is like, oh, man, that old cartoon was trash. Like, yeah, well, context-wise, they've got how many years to pull off 5 episodes of this show, and they were American animators cracking out a cartoon a week, right? I mean, like, it's just not the same thing. And the amount of detail, I've seen some stuff about like, oh, those old designs are so simple. It's like, well, some dude was sitting in a room having to crack out hundreds of those. Yeah, they're simple. That's there was no computers to do this. They were really doing backgrounds on a reel and spinning them. I mean, it's just not. The context is completely different. So I wish people had that, but I know nuance is dead. So.
Well, and again, the younger generations have benefited from the geek explosion, and now we are getting more sophisticated ideas and designs. But this was a simpler time, and also budgets had to be a big concern. So I mean, here's Sorceress and Tila from like classic Filmation time.
Which
sorry to emphasize on Tila's butt. So here's a front shot of Tila. There you go.
Yeah, I love that design. That's actually and we've talked about this before, but when I was a kid, my favorite character in the cartoon was Tila, which made me weird. Because, I was a boy and I was the only boy I knew who had the Tila figure. She was my favorite character in that show. And then I lost that. Well, I didn't lose it. The kid we were babysitting lost my Tila figure, and I could never get another one because in those days, when they stopped selling it at Target or Kmart, that was it. They weren't releasing that again, right?
And they didn't reorder them. Yeah,
couldn't reorder it. Couldn't go on Amazon or eBay, right? It was my heart for years, and so like then when I was in my 20s, I started. That's one of the reasons I started collecting figures again. Was I was like, well, I need something to do because comics have been ruined for me because my jobby, not my hobby. And then I figured, oh, I can rebuy these figures, and the first one I bought was a Tila. So, yeah.
No, I get it, man. All right. Honestly, I've watched all 5. I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I understand that feeling of, I guess, bait and switch might be on some of the detractors because of what they did. But I can appreciate that argument slightly. But what I would also say is it's only half the story.
What's the bait and switch? I guess I'm curious as to what are people.
Well, you're not at episode 5. I don't want to mess it up for you.
Well, I know. I mean, I don't want to.
So you know what's going on.
Well, I know they told me 2 years ago, so I know what it is. But
okay. Oh, did they really tell you the whole plot and everything 2 years ago?
I mean, yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. So I mean, after 5 episodes, He-Man dies again.
Yeah, right.
And it really is in a lot of ways Tila's story, which is fine. To me, go ahead. You go on now.
It's called Masters of the Universe, right? Like so. Right. So it became the cartoon. The '80s cartoon was He-Man Masters of the Universe because He-Man was leading that. But the original thing was called Masters of the Universe, and those characters all were sort of the same. It was a show about heroes, various heroes. You had, and in the original idea was like Tila was the warrior princess, and there was a goddess. The toy was the same because they want to make 2 female figures, so you just snapped on a snake armor and you had 2 toys. And then they were from different tribes, right? Man-at-Arms was the warrior with technology, came down, he joined He-Man. He-Man was the warrior from the hills. It was like an ensemble, very heroic champions thing. So they're just doing that, right? They're doing the version of it that it started out as. So yeah, it's weird to me that people think it's a bait and switch in any way. I mean, He-Man's in it. He's in the episode with Scareglow. He's a ghost, I guess, but like it's and he's the star of the first episode. He sacrificed.
And there's tons of flashbacks of he and Tila fighting various people and everything, and a lot of He-Man and Skeletor. So no, I agree with you. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of the original Flash Gordon story, where all of these different tribes that have been wronged by Skeletor are banding together, and former allies of Skeletor are like, well, maybe I wasn't right to follow him. And it's like, yeah, it had that great Flash Gordon vibe of let's all get together and do this. And yeah, I think it only built the universe bigger, giving agency to not only Tila, but all these other side characters and their stories. So I'm like, this is good. And this is a good thing.
Well, they also did a really smart thing which was, and you talk about Flash Gordon, the DNA of Master Universe is, Rob Taylor, the guy that was the designer at Mattel at the time, he was like dinking around. He had a character he had made up as a kid that was basically Conan, and then he started combined it was Conan plus Flash Gordon. That was what it was, or Buck Rogers, because at the time they were both kind of popular in the late 70s.
Sure.
So it is literally the DNA of Master Universe to say, let's combine Flash Gordon and Conan. That's what it is. So, but what's interesting, what I really like that they did in the show, is that they picked up on the thing which was inherently always part of Master Universe, and actually was the original origin of the story before they kind of added the prints and stuff, was that it's technology versus magic. It's a world in sort of conflict with these two ideas, and so if it's too much magic, then demons take over, like Skeletor, and if there's too much technology, it destroys the magic. So it's like this world in conflict, which is a great setup, right? That's just a big fantasy idea. That's all it is. But it's like a fantasy by way of like these sci-fi ideas. But that's the original, there was this thing called the Great War in the original pitch for the series. That's what it was. Magic versus, gods of technology and gods of magic, and they clash and they destroy the world. And so, of course, why wouldn't you pick up on that cool theme? And what a great way to do it is to have the character who was the tech person, the sort of practical person, the non-magic person, Tila, has to go and team up with the magic person, right? That's cool. It doesn't seem like a bait and switch to me in any way.
Well, I think again, maybe people were hoping for He-Man, being the lead and just, again, it being more about He-Man. I want to explain something to Fido Pinto or FDO Pinto. I thought it was great. Apparently the next 5 are already done, so they should drop within 2021. Respectfully, not necessarily, especially if you know how Netflix operates. For example, my friend Joe Henderson's show, Lucifer, season 5 was done. They released the first half of season 5 in 2020. They just released the second half of season 5 this year. So it is not unusual for them to literally wait 12 months between half seasons. Again, it's possible, and maybe because it's a shorter season and also this controversy, they might want to, drift on that and absolutely kind of, keep the ball rolling. They might release them in a few months. I really don't know, but I wouldn't count on it. I really wouldn't count on it. I don't think it'll come until maybe early next year. That's my own, without having any, inside knowledge.
And the other side of this would be, they got to sell toys. So if the toy release schedule involves pushing it down, they'll release it around the release of, a group.
Oh,
of so
and also, excuse me, because Pinto tells me Kevin Smith said this in his last podcast. What the hell? Hey, man, God bless you. There you go. Honestly, I was too busy last weekend to be part of the initial, hey, what the fuck? Kevin Smith, what are you doing? I hate you. What have you done to He-Man? You've raped my childhood. It's like, calm the fuck down. Let's see what's going on.
I have a feeling also that, the kind of controversy that people think that this is not the kind that doesn't sell toys. It's not the kind, this is just internet crap. It doesn't mean anything.
Oh, yeah.
But, they're going to sell a lot of figures. They had a really good strategy for this, which was they released the origin figures first, and they sort of built up new fans with it, because Master Universe was pretty much just a direct to fan thing for the past, pretty much since the end of the 2000 X cartoon, which was like 2002. So at least for 20 years, it's just been a direct to fan thing. So they were smart. You can buy those Origins figures everywhere. You can buy them in Walmart and Target and everything. So, they built it up, and this is great. I think it was super smart. They're reaping the benefits. There's not a lot of boys toy line stuff out now, but they also made a cartoon which appeals to everybody. So I think it's great.
More comments from people. Andrew Wyatt says, bait and switch was when Kevin Smith said, this isn't the Tila show. We will have tons and tons of He-Man. Well, I saw lots of He-Man. At least that was my perception. Again, I know it's Tila's story, but I felt like we got plenty of it. Wayne says, I never watched Masters of the Universe. I have no skin in the game. I thought this was a good series. That's kind of where I'm landing, too. Andrew also says all Kevin had to say was, I'm not commenting on the plot.
But he's Kevin. So
exactly. And Kevin's a fan. And also I appreciate that Kevin has a point of view, because sometimes I think Kevin Smith's ass must hurt from sitting on the fence as much as he does. Because there are things like that everyone is kind of universal of, well, or I shouldn't say that, but regardless, given his age or whatever, it just seems sometimes he wasn't really willing to give his own real opinion of things. Like even the initial Justice League movie release, not necessarily the Snyder cut. And that movie's a mess. And he's like, let me tell you what I liked about it. And I'm like,
but he's friends with those guys.
I know.
Like, you can't say, like, buddy, I hated your movie.
Well,
Kevin is
to you all the time. What are you talking about?
But Kevin lives in an interesting space because he's one of the few creatives who is also a character, right? He's a famous guy.
A commentator. Yeah.
He's a cultural commentator. He's an influencer.
Yes.
Yeah. Master Universe is lucky to have him because he is a public face. Like, they have a lot of good writers on that show, but having Kevin means you have a guy that most people know who he is, and that he can go on Good Morning America, and he can do stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a really smart choice. And Rob David was the one that pushed for that. It was genius. It's also a guy who's sort of unexpected, but not too unexpected. You're like, well, no, it makes sense. That's what you need, right? I think that they did a great job on that.
Here, David Finn says, the question I would ask is, do we really need Kevin Smith telling audiences to grow the fuck up, given that he wanted more He-Man? I know he had a lot of listeners on Signal of Doom with a wide range of reactions. It does seem like biting the hand that feeds you when a showrunner goes after the audience space like that. Yeah, David, I agree, but I also think his second comment was a little smarter, where he said, really, do you really think I'm going to kill He-Man? This is that classic judging in the middle of the story rather than letting the story finish. And I realize they've only given us 5 episodes, so right now that's the end. But and again, maybe this is generational, but we were all bummed back in 80 was it 80 when Empire Strikes Back came out?
Sure.
And I would say things are just as dire right now in the Masters of the Universe universe as it was in Star Wars, where it's like, okay, Han is frozen. Luke just lost his hand and got his ass kicked by Darth Vader. Things could not be worse. See you guys later. We'll get to Jedi when we get to it, maybe in 3 years. So
it does. The one thing that the uber woke and the uber conservative fans seem to have in common is they don't want anything to happen to their characters, which is a weird thing because that's not story. This is a bummer, but I hate to tell you this, that you would enjoy it so much less if this wasn't the case. If there is no conflict, if there is no change, it's not a story, it's a list. So right. So the problem that they want you to talk about it and come back. That's the job of story, to finish it. You've got to finish it. If you tell the middle and it's basically like, well, then nothing happened and everybody stood around and shook each other's hand and rubbed butts, it's not a story. It's not, right? So that always, and that's the one thing I see on both sides. And I don't know why that happened. What we did culturally, maybe we just gave people too much. We gave them whatever they asked for. And so there's sort of none of this interaction with the story, which has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That is how it works. It is literally by definition not a story if you don't do that. Right? Because I always say this, you ever do that thing where you're telling your friends you're out for dinner or having a drink, and you start to tell some story and you realize it doesn't have a fucking point. It doesn't have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then you look around and you're like, shit, I wish I could end this because I fucked it up. That's what this would be if it didn't have it. It has to have a fucking middle and it has to have an end. So it just drives me crazy. And in the meantime, if you're upset about it or you think you should have He-Man, there's a big old DC omnibus right here. It's huge. This DC Comics omnibus is
Hold on, stand by. Yeah, go ahead.
incredible. Look at this thing.
Yes, Jesus Christ.
She will keep you busy for fucking a year. Okay, so
Well, I hear you, Tim, but I also do think that it's like, again, I think people could have relaxed and had a fair, and just accept the story for what it is. It is called Masters of the Universe. It isn't called He-Man. If it were just a He-Man story, I could see a little more disappointment. But yeah, I mean, but that argument of, hey, there's a ton of stories, go back and read them or whatever. It's like, yeah, but we're getting something new. I mean, it's.
you haven't read it. It's new, John. That book.
Well, you're right about that. You're right about that. No, and hey, Tim, again, one of the reasons why I want you on is for people to check out Injustice and Masters of the Universe, because there's amazing Freddie Williams the third art in this thing. Look at this. Jesus Christ, look at that. Jesus Christ. There's classic Tila right there with Batman and Harley.
We gave it to you.
Absolutely. No, you absolutely did. And that's why I love it as much as it is. Yeah, man. I think I think, again, I like the designs. The one thing I would say is, and I like the fact that they cast Sarah Michelle Gellar as Tila. I do think it's kind of funny that in the earlier part of the first episode, she's talking like this, but now she's a warrior. So it's like, all right, now I'm serious. And it's like, all right, if I were the voice director, I'd be like, Sarah, we still wanted to sound like you. It's all right, relax, okay? You don't have to, toughen up that much and everything. It's like it's fine, okay? We got the design. We got Tila buff now. It's cool, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit of a clever coup to have like the badass, the basically Buffy. The idea is that the cheerleader fights back, right? That's the template of.
It's amazing. I love Buffy. I absolutely love Buffy.
Yeah, it's a smart casting thing to be like, this was the character. And the cool thing about Tila was she was always tough. That was the thing. That's why when I was a kid watching that cartoon or reading those mini comics, the shtick was that the prince was a wiener. Right? He was a fop and useless, and she was the hard ass who like whipped him into shape. He was afraid of her. Like that is so cool. That's such a clever. It was already a great riff on a stereotype, right? Like already in the original cartoon, they flipped it on the head, and obviously she's taking that sort of Lois Lane role, right? Because to some degree, there's Dan worked. Dan Fraga worked on.
Hey Dan, sure. How you doing, Dan?
Great artist, but yeah, I mean, that was part of that DNA of that character already. So like, there wasn't a lot of change. That there wasn't a major change in it. The only thing that you saw that they set up as a big change for the character was, thanks, Dan. It's true, and you were Dan too. Dan used to work at Mattel, so Dan can tell. Dan knows the ins and outs of brand management, and so he can tell you that stuff. But what the hell is I talking about? Oh, but basically they added this this idea that she felt betrayed, that no one trusted her enough to tell her, which I thought was a pretty clever sort of flip on the Lois Lane character, right? Like, so that she's the woman who's this person's life, but she doesn't know. And then when she finds out when he's dead, or she thinks he's dead, and she feels really betrayed. Like, that's a really interesting. That's not the expected reaction. She didn't take it well. She was like, "Oh no, I'm out." Right? So I thought that was clever. I thought, they expanded on some character traits that were there, and then they made them, a setup for more story. Right? So now it's that's the job. You got to set it up, and now you got to do the journey, and then you got to go through the journey, and then you have to come to a conclusion.
Eric Williams says they weren't marketing the omnibus to the old-time fans, Tim. They were marketing this show. No idea why they didn't wait and release all the episodes unless their open controversy begins view. Again, Eric, I have to disagree because
I don't. What is marketing? How is that? are you betrayed? You got marketed to? I don't understand. I guess I don't understand what people want.
Well, he's saying that I guess
I don't
that as you're bringing up an example of the omnibus, and forgive me, Eric, this is what I'm assuming you're saying. They're like, hey, He-Man fans, watch this show. Which, fine, whatever. No idea why they didn't release all the episodes, however, and that maybe because of controversy. I don't think so, man. I mean, I think they purposely put a cliffhanger there. But again, this has been the nature of Netflix, is to split a traditional season into 2 parts, even though this is only 10 parts rather than the 20 or so parts of, say, like, Lucifer or a show like that.
The reason of that is the bummer is that there's a high burn rate. So if you're with Netflix and you put out 10 shows and you put them all out at the same time and people burn through them, they don't talk about them. That's it. It's over. So yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to be offended by marketing, there's a lot more egregious marketing going on to you all the time, which, I mean, that I guess I don't understand, and I'm not sure I will. But this is the job. I mean, you're talking about it, so I don't know I guess I can't. Yeah, I guess I'll never understand that part of any sort of fan stuff. Like, and they did market the omnibus. They tried to sell it to you just like they try to sell everything. So I guess I don't know that part of always. And maybe I'm too close to where they make the hot dogs. I don't know.
I don't know either. Again, I thought the designs were great. I thought the story was interesting. I really appreciate the character development. And again, I was aware of the toys. I was aware of the cartoon. I really didn't watch it. They sucked me in with everybody's individual stories. I am thrilled for my friend Susan Eisenberg, who plays Sorceress.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She brings her A game once again. And I'll be talking to her about the series, in August, in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm digging it. I'll be honest, and I'm pleased. I remember when a couple years ago they had that new Thundercats series, and a good friend of mine that's younger than me is like, look, I know you didn't, I know the toys didn't interest you. Michael Jelenic, one of the great Warner Brother animated writers, was the showrunner for that Thundercats series, and he's like, I'm telling you, man, this is a good adventure show, and you like enough nerd shit that you can appreciate a good animated show. And I'm like, yeah. So I watched it and I'm like, this is really good. I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. I'm sorry that there was only 1 season. I think this is the right platform, and I think the right showrunner in Kevin Smith. And I hope that, this will continue beyond the first season. Here, Eric Williams is back and he says, you nailed it for me, John. Another egregious marketing does offend me as well, Tim. We respectfully disagree. Well, respectfully is the key, man. And again, I don't mind contrarian opinions to mine and Tim's point of view. Don't be an asshole, everybody, okay? I see some comments in the chat. Don't be an asshole. You can say what you want in the chat. It's not just going to appear on screen. Sorry.
Yeah, And the other part of this is I do feel like there has been, to some degree, a loss of understanding of story in the world. I just that seems to be clear. Like, because I remember this going back to like when they revealed Thor was going to be Jane or something. All these people getting mad. You made Thor a woman. It's like, dude, they made Thor a frog. They made Thor Eric Masterson. He was Thunderstrike when I was a kid. Like, they just need to refresh these things sometimes. It's the nature of the beast. And it's this weird thing that people are like, well, this is it forever. I'm walking like Superman's dead forever. Like, no, he isn't. It's a brand. It's an IP. Like I wish it wasn't that case, but these things are valuable for selling stuff. That is what they are.
Bench, birthday cakes, greeting cards. Yeah.
And so I try to do this thing. I know that, right? Like, so I know He-Man is basically just a way to sell plastic, and I've obviously bought some of it. You can see it behind me. Dino, yes, yeah, goddamn, save Dino the Last Dinosaur. But this idea that these things, you have to keep 2 thoughts in your head at the same time. One is, this is meant to sell me something. All of it. Every single fucking moment of it. The marketing, also the cartoon, all of it is meant to sell you something. You're in America, everything is meant to sell you something. Okay? So you have to keep that thought in your head at the same time. On the other hand, you also be like, is this a good story? Am I enjoying myself? Is this interesting? Is this compelling? Does it have interesting characters? It's 2 different things, and they happen to sort of be part of all this way that we're selling everything as story and telling every story to sell something. But it's just like this is what it is, and it won't change. This is, you know, every movie that came out this year was, you know, every big movie was a reboot, a sequel, an IP, a soft drink, a right, an adaptation, right? I mean, like that. If you really want to interact with a story that doesn't going to do this to you, I would recommend you rent Pig. You know, that's a great movie. Zola just came out. That was a great movie. Those movies are not based on IP. You have no previous experience. You can watch it and be free and enjoy it. That's what I would say. You know, or even if you want a big stupid sci-fi movie, that the Tomorrow War. You know, nothing based on it. Won't have expectations. You can just watch it. It's its own movie. Entertaining as shit. Really dumb. Really.
Was it fun?
Oh, dude, it's awesome monsters, amazing aliens. You know, it's a story in quotes. I mean, there's not much going on, but it's super big and super well done. So, yeah.
And I'm going to get names wrong, but I'm going to disagree with Deviant Pork, who says, I'm all for inclusivity and all. But to be honest here, the main team is the only guys that are comic relief, a robot, and a big Labrador for a show mostly not aimed to boys. But I would disagree and say I think Duncan is being heroic. I think is a man of arms, or what's the, you know, is that Tila's dad?
Yeah, Duncan. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, is Duncan man of arms? Is that the same guy?
Yeah, same guy. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sorry. I see men kicking ass, and Tim, you're right. I agree with you. I think they handled Jane Foster as Thor quite well. Jason did in the comics, because we still got original Thor's story alongside Jane as Thor happening at the same time. And that's where I think Kevin did a good thing in still inserting flashbacks of He-Man and Skeletor fighting and He-Man talking to Tila. And it's like he's there. So I do think that he is still represented throughout the show in a fine way. I agree with Ali M, who says Orko was boss. I agree with that. I thought, man, Orko,
you know,
the little that I saw of the show as a kid, or I guess as a late teen, early 20 guy, Orko was annoying as fuck, and I found Orko very good in this version and very interesting and very subtly played as much as you can, still having the squeaky voice and being kind of the nerdy character that he is and everything.
Yeah, it's weird. I guess I'll never understand this either. And I guess I just might be fucking weird. I don't know. But when you're a dude, do you have to see dudes? And I don't mean that in a sexual way. Like, I just mean it as like when you watch something, can you only understand it or be interested in it if they have the same gender? Because I don't have that.
Well,
I've watched a million slasher movies in my life, and the main character is almost always a woman.
True.
I've written a million stories in my life, and the main character was 50 to 60% of the time a woman. That's what I don't understand. Like, does that matter? Why do you care?
Well, I'll tell you, Tim, because honestly, I'll confess to this. Alias is a show that really turned me around, because up until then, even like in the Femme Nikita and some other things like that, I'm like, okay, it's there. I don't really have an interest in watching it. And then Jennifer Garner in Alias really blew my mind. The fight scenes were so good, and her story was so interesting. It really did make me go, I am paying attention. This is really, really interesting. And so I've been a knuckle dragger at times in my life. I won't deny it, and that's fine. But again, you're right. I think you do kind of see the same over and over. I'll be honest. I'm curious to see, and really, it was funny. I was talking about this with Gabe Arvin and the guys when we were doing our Kinescope show. We were talking about the first Casino Royale, the one with Barry Nelson from The Shining as Jimmy Bond, the American agent.
Oh, right. Yeah, that one.
And we were talking about No Time to Die, the new one that's coming up. And I realized that, just for the framing of the story, Bond isn't 007 anymore. There's a woman that's 007. And my thought is,
sounds awesome.
Of course they'll reboot and we'll get a new Bond. I'm okay with them following this 007 character. I was okay with Halle Berry being Jinx in Die Another Day, and I'm like, hey, if you really want to make a Jinx franchise, that's great. I am against if you call James Bond and it's James Bond is a woman. I'm like, you're trying too hard. Give us an MI. It's like in the Doctor Who universe, Romana, the Doctor's Time Lord companion. If you want to make a Romana series, they made a Sarah Jane Smith series. That's fantastic. And again, Romana is I'm sorry, I was going to say Romulan, a Time Lord. I'm like, great, let's follow her. And I have no problem with Jodie Whittaker being the new Doctor. What I do have a problem with is too many companions and bad writing. I didn't see bad writing in this Masters of the Universe reboot. And like I said, I don't have a horse in this race, so I was okay that Tila was the lead. And again, it was good. Good writing will solve all problems. And I do think you've gotten good writing. I do think a lot of the complaints are very surface complaints. And again, it's like, well, it's only half the story. Relax. So
yeah. It's it. I guess maybe this goes back to when I was a kid. Tila was my favorite character. I was 5, and I thought, and I'm still okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. I guess I never noticed that was important, but I guess it's important to some people. I'm not one of those people. I would encourage you to put away that sort of thing because I don't think it fucking matters. Characters should be interesting, and it's an interesting character. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, also, the James Bond thing, they've changed that so much inherently from what the original thing was anyway, right? He was a one singular character, and in just making a bunch of movies, they've now made it a title. So it could be a lady, right? I mean, it's just a title. Like Doctor Who, it's just a title. And obviously He-Man is just a title because there's She-Ra, right? So like, and the other thing I think is this stuff is so weird is like, they've done this storyline in He-Man before. This storyline has been done, right? Like, I'm not saying that it's not there. It's an adaptation of tons of history, right? They cherry pick stuff, right? The Rob David created a lot of this from Mattel. Going back to Scott Nealick, who was working at Mattel, previously collected all these story Bibles and all this stuff put together. So this has been done before, right? There has been, a switch of the title. There has been He-Man has died before. He died in the George Caragone written Star comics where.
Okay.
So this is not new, and he was replaced in this case by a time traveling version of himself. But it's been done before. It's just that's the thing that was confusing me too. Is like that idea that this is somehow new and that you're part of some history that's shocking, but it's always been this way. I guess that confuses me. Like no one got mad when we did it when we made Skeletor He-Man and Master of the Multiverse. No one said shit. So, and we also made a bunch of female He-Mans in this book. And no one said shit.
I don't agree with Geek Kazu says we've never been lied or ripped off before. I don't see how you were ripped off. I don't see how you were lied to. Again, you've only watched half the story. Relax.
I guess I just. This will probably always be something that confuses me. I'll always try to talk about it and try to provide. But if you felt lied to or ripped off, you've been advertised to. That's, I guess, part of the job. And you will probably, if they made this predictable, you wouldn't like it. So they can't. They're in the position of they have to make this as sort of, compelling as possible. That's the job. That's, I'm sorry that writers have to sort of lie to you, but we have to. Otherwise, you won't read it, or you won't watch it, or you won't,
Yeah.
It's our job. It's, right?
Mr. Biggins says in modern U.S. culture, strong female equals male female. I don't see any emasculation of men in this story. I'm sorry. I don't see it.
Wow. Yeah.
I think you're looking for it, frankly. And again, maybe only because Smith chose to focus on Tila for the hero's journey, as opposed to He-Man, who has been on the hero's journey for 40 years now, or 35 years now.
I mean, you want to talk about like emasculation? Like Adam is in the old cartoon, like the perfect symbol of emasculation. He's a foppish sort of like irresponsible guy who wears a pink vest and purple tights. I don't know. I guess where is this new? That part confuses me too.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Tell me again what I love about the books that you've written. First of all, the Injustice book. You throw in not only the Injustice version of the Justice League with the Masters, but also we get Apocalypse and Darkseid and the New Gods as well. I think that's awesome. Again, being the nerd that I am, Master Universe shares some DNA with Jack Kirby and with the New Gods because
in the late 70s, early 80s, Mattel considered doing a toy line of New Gods. But the comics were, obviously they weren't a huge success when they came out, which is a bit of a tragedy. And there was sort of the idea that, look, we'll just sort of fold these dark side characters into Super Friends, and or that cartoon that came out then. So they scrapped it, but they had those designs laying around. So like a lot of the early visuals for Masters Universe are very, very Jack Kirby. A lot of the, especially if you see the character Zodak, he actually looks exactly like a sort of Kirby character, and so that DNA was in there. And so I felt like if we don't put the Fourth World characters in a story with, when I get to cross them over, it would be insane of me not to do it. And we get to do the cool thing where Darkseid, staying outside Castle Grayskull, he's trying to blow the doors open, and Darkseid actually comes down to one knee because he can't break the doors down.
Wow.
Favorite things I've ever written. So there's cool shit like that. You can do fun stuff.
That's awesome, man. And really, Freddie drew the hell out of Injustice. So who was your artist for the Multiverse version?
We have Dan on the first 2 issues, and then Tom Derenick came in at
Oh, that's great. I like both of their art. That's outstanding. That's really cool. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to bring up regarding your books. Well, tell me about, so for the Multiverse one, what various versions of characters did we see?
Well, so the Master Multiverse one basically does, so, there was the original Master Universe cartoon, but before that there was the mini comics, which were a completely different thing. And then there was the Star Comics. There was the He-Man cartoon that was in space, called Adventures of He-Man. Then there was the 2000X era cartoon. And so we basically, and there was the 1987 movie starring Dolph Lundgren. And so we basically say all those things happen, but in different universes. They're different versions of the same guy. So it's this, and so people told me it's the same plot as the movie The One, but I never saw the movie, so I apologize. But basically, there is a character. Oh yeah, Dan did layouts on 3. There's an existing character in the lore created by a German children's book company. The character's called Anti-He-Man, and he's terrifying. He's like this all, shadow He-Man with red hair and red eyes, but he's the evil He-Man. And so we basically say that he goes through the multiverse and is stealing the power of Grayskull from all the other He-Mans when he kills them. So the only He-Man he can't find are the ones that, basically that they've got something wrong with them. So it's sort of like the outcast led by Prince Keldor, who, if you know the lore, traditionally becomes Skeletor. And they're running from this guy trying to get to the Prime Universe, which, as we say in this, is the mini comics version, in which He-Man is a barbarian like Conan. He came down from the hills on his giant tiger. There is no, king and queen. It's just a barbarian dude who occasionally picks up a laser gun and he fights off the demon invader named Skeletor. So it's like all those things put together. It's super fun. And you get the crazy Dolph Lundgren version of He-Man, who is kind of grim and comes from a war-torn Eternia, and he shoots laser guns and kills people. So yeah, it's real fun. It's cool stuff.
Mark wants to know if you know, why did the He-Man Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic get canceled and never released? Saw the art on Twitter recently, and it looked awesome. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to write it.
Okay.
But, I mean, how far it got was not... I mean, Freddie did a lot of great art for it because he was working on it for a long time. He kind of brought me in because Freddie was the go-to guy for Ninja Turtles crossovers. He did the Batman one. And so he was working on it. And when we finished Injustice, he asked me about doing it. And I was like, yeah, fuck, sign me up. But it didn't happen, and then got replaced basically on the schedule by Master of the Multiverse. I don't know the exacts, but I have a pretty good idea that because it involved Nickelodeon, and then Mattel was doing this cartoon, that it was just like various corporate stuff, and they didn't want to confuse.
Sure.
And obviously networks were involved, and so I don't know the exacts. It wasn't anything creative. It was just business.
Yeah, corporate versus corporate. No. This is what's keeping us from probably never getting another Marvel and DC crossover like we got in up till the 90s. So maybe you can answer DeviantPort's question on this. I still don't understand why Teela suddenly hates magic when she's the product or the proudest in the world to become the man at arms, and they use magic all the time. No problem for her.
No, I mean, I don't I don't know about that part, but in the story, she doesn't use magic. In the traditional stuff, she's a soldier, right? And Man at Arms is traditionally hates magic, right? He's the thanks, man. But Man at Arms he's the tech guy, right? He's always been that, and she was trained in that. So, just from a story standpoint, she never used magic. And then the other part of that is her mother is the sorceress,
Right.
Additionally, it doesn't seem like she knows that in this cartoon, but in other versions she has known that. But she always had as a character story point to sort of really set that up. She hated magic, so that when she becomes a sorceress, then it's a story, right? You can't have the character be like, I love magic now, I'm a sorceress, yay, no conflict. Like, it doesn't work. It has to have conflict. So as a character point, she has always traditionally been the one distrustful of magic. So yeah, hate, I don't think that was part of it, but they had to make this interesting, so she hates it. It actually completely tracks with everything we know about that character.
Understood. Am I right? Did Don Glut create the backstory for Masters of the Universe?
Yeah, sort of. The story goes that Mattel was working on this, and they had a pretty good idea of the figures, and it was created by Mark Taylor and some of the designers at Mattel. And so they had names roughly, but they weren't like sort of set up. So I believe Merman, for instance, at the time was called Aquaman. Like, we can't call him that.
Sure.
And Zodak was called Sensor and stuff like that. So they contacted Don, who was known as a comic book writer and sort of a man about town. They asked him they sent him a box of toys, I believe, or photos, and they said, hey, can you help us come up with some stuff for this? So Don went through the box. I interviewed him about this, by the way, over beers, and it was fun. And he said he looked at the thing, and he looked at the character who was called Goddess at the time. And
sure.
Don is the biggest Tarzan fan on Earth. Tila is the name of the elephant on the Tarzan TV show.
Oh.
So that's where her name comes from. And he said he originally was going to call Merman Seaman, and he thought it'd be a funny joke, and they caught it, so they turned it into Merman. And because Don always, if you know Don, he's always trying to get away with shit. That's part of it. And then he told me, and again, this could be apocryphal. I don't know. It was Don. He might have been fucking with me, but he said he sent him the castle. It was called, I believe, like the Keep of something, Dwell of Lost Souls or something like that. And he said he had just gotten divorced from a woman whose last name was Gray, so he decided to call it Castle Grayskull. And then he laughed because he said, "Castle's fucking green. Why did they let me call it Gray?" So anyway, that's how it got named. The great Don Glut did the work on that stuff, and so that's the origin of those characters' names. He-Man was already baked in. That was part of the deal, and that's always the thing that cracks me up about Masters of the Universe stuff is like, look, I love it, it's great, but whenever people are like, "Oh, it's super serial, take it serious," like, He-Man means like the stud on the beach, right? Like, right. Like, it is inherently silly. It just is. You can have some great stories there, but by its DNA, it is not serious.
Right. No, I'm with you, man. Absolutely. And again, I appreciate that. Listen, I love these designs. Look at that. It looks fantastic. All of these.
The animation, by the way. Yeah, the animation, this is really good. The thing I like the best is how beautiful those background, the matte paintings and stuff are so good. That's actually kind of a lost art in American animation as far as network stuff. And these are just gorgeous, really well done. Set designs and stuff, just so cool.
Yeah, honestly, I think the designs are great. The cult of technology is that part of the big story. I mean, I know again the basic conflict of technology versus magic, but was that a new thing that they added? The rogue cult people that were following the guy with the eye?
Yeah, Triclops. Yeah, that's pretty new. I mean, we kind of deal with it a little bit in Masters of Justice because the whole thing with Superman was using the Brainiac tech, and so we did a little bit of that stuff. And but I think that was just that was an interesting sort of, yeah, you can see it here with the technology stuff there. But yeah, I think it was just a really clever way to expand upon this idea. And they did a cool thing, which was, the characters like Trapjaw and Triclops, they're techno guys, so they would do this. And then people like Beastman or an animal guy, and the more sort of nature-based characters, it was a really cool way to split them into different sort of sides, It's also a theme that they bring up later in the Space He-Man cartoon, right? The idea is that Skeletor, to continue his power, becomes a cyborg, but it's like killing him. You can see it in the figure design. And Dan drew a really nice version of it in the Masters of the Multiverse. But then Skeletor gets overtaken by it, but like it kills him. It's like he's got wires coming out of his brain and stuff, and because he's a magical figure or character, he is a figure as well. That it starts to destroy him.
Wayne says his only problem was that Mark Hamill sounded too much like the Joker, and it took me out of the story when he talked. I mean, I heard the Joker in his Skeletor, but hearing enough of the original Skeletor, I think it was evoking that original voice, but also it became its own thing, and I kind of liked that.
I think it's impossible to do Alan Oppenheimer. That guy is a singular voice. Like, I'm glad they didn't really try. Like they didn't try to do Alan Oppenheimer.
It's weird. It's weird because he's in the cast.
Yeah,
I assume he's playing Ookla or whatever.
Yeah, he plays one character. I didn't see who he plays, but yeah.
Oh, and there you go. Because I mean, I appreciate from a stunt casting standpoint having Mark just as much as having Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is, I mean, when I saw that Alan Oppenheimer was coming back, I'm like, oh, I'm sure he'll be playing, whatever. And I didn't know he played Skeletor, so that to me is strange. It's like almost, sit over here and play this guy instead. I don't know.
Or maybe he played Scareglow. I don't.
I should look up the cast. Shame on me. Oh, this is interesting. The Wii says the Tila haircut design. I think I've seen it in Star Wars: High Republic, amongst other new female characters. I've not actually seen the haircut in real life. It must be trendy. I've seen the haircut in real life.
Yeah, I've seen it, but not that often. But you're right. I do see it more, and it's sort of a symbol, right? Like, I mean, this is a thing you kind of, I work in animation and comics. Sometimes designs, they mean something more than they are realistic or whatever, right? So you choose that because it means, oh, she's like tough and she's no longer trying. You know what I mean? Like you use these things, they're shorthand, they're symbols for something. So like,
well, yeah. No, it's she's older and now more mature. Supposedly, or whatever.
Right, and designs like for animation, like they're based on shapes, and the shapes are meant to sort of evoke something. So instead of soft hair design, maybe that's made out of circles, which indicate like feminine. You do like angled. Oh, he played Moss Man. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Alan. So he gets killed right off the bat, but that totally makes sense.
Yes, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, he is an older gentleman and stuff. I'm not sure, where he is right now in his career. Regarding the hair, Kevin Smith said he got the idea from the design from Supergirl's sister on the CW Supergirl. The actress cut her hair that way. Kevin thought it was cool.
There you go.
Yeah, man. Andrew says, point being, I think they need to bring the remaining episodes because honestly, I want to be in the good. I want them to do several new seasons. I think, honestly, the fact that everyone's buzzing about it so much, I'd almost guarantee that, we're going to get more seasons. I think they haven't already announced that, and they may have. But I think it's the timing is good. I do think there's enough positive out there, despite the people that are complaining.
Oh, overwhelmingly positive. Like the critical reviews are through the roof. I mean, for a cartoon that is, and this is not a critique, it is true, is literally meant to sell plastic figures. That is what it's meant to do. That it has that kind of critical acclaim is insane. That never happens.
Well, it happened 20 years ago when they made the Justice League cartoon.
Sure. Yeah.
And everybody went nuts, and it's like, and it's still my favorite story that my old college roommate and I are watching the show, and we're both, this is 20 years ago, so we're both in our 30s, and his wife walks in and is like, "What are you doing?" to the husband, and he's like, "Okay, I know it's a cartoon, but you don't understand. This is really well written, and it's like a really good drama that happens to be animated." And she's like, "Yeah, all right."
And again, like the sort of the evolution of this stuff is because it was really only allowed to be those things, since 82 or 83 or whatever, when Reagan did that, and again, deregulating the FCC had a whole lot of other terrible consequences, but one of them, I guess, is that we got toys and cartoons that go together, and it made us passionate freaks, and here we are.
As Donna Hisk says, Smith also said the Netflix bosses said, Kevin, the detractors are only 10,000 at most. We have 260 million subscribers. The detractors don't matter. I like that. Also, Mario says I should bug Mark Bernardin to get him and Kevin Smith on Word Balloon. I like having Mark on. I'd be very happy to have Kevin on the show. I've approached him in the past, and it's gotten nowhere, and that's okay. I'm sure there are a million other podcasts that would love to have Kevin Smith on the show. If it happens, and that's great. The river will provide. And in the meantime, I really like talking to Mark one-on-one. I think he's a smart writer, and I think he's a smart commentator on media. So I'm very content to, as far as when Bernardin comes on the show, that it's a Mark Bernardin conversation and not an excuse to get Kevin Smith on. So, but that's just me.
Word Balloon Smodcast crossover or Fat Man on Batman. Yeah, there you go.
Again, I've approached him face to face, and I'm like, "Hey, give me your contact person." "Oh, no, man, give me your card. I'll talk to you." And I'm like,
Yeah, Ollie said that Alan Oppenheimer was reluctant to do the voice because it's difficult. Now I feel really bad because he did my voice on my. I paid him twice to do it because the first time I fucked it up. I had to have Alan Oppenheimer do my my voice. It said, "Oh, it's Skeletor." All right. That was. I made him do it twice, so I feel bad now.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. Let's see. Tim, kids these days get to watch things like Dark Knight and many other really well-written works. I think you're underestimating how sophisticated kids are these days. Your thoughts?
Wait, what?
Yeah. All right, I'll read it again.
Well, I didn't say this case. Also, don't show kids. Don't show 5-year-old Dark Knight thing. Really. I'm not sure. I'm not saying anybody's. I never said this.
Yeah, I agree, Andrew, in principle. I mean, I told Jerry Conway when I was 9 years old and read the reprint of The Death of Gwen Stacy, he didn't destroy me, and I didn't go postal or anything like that. If anything, it expanded my imagination and like, wow, stories can have consequences. And that excited me, and not in any visceral, like, hey, I can't wait before they kill the next character. But it was a dramatic moment that hit me in the right way. So, no, I agree with you, but I don't think that's what Tim was saying either. I don't know. Yeah, I guess, Tim, you're echoing a little bit, says Wayne, but yeah. That's all right. Lean into the mic, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I was having trouble hearing you there a little bit.
I don't know where that came from, but that's how it works. Maybe if I put headphones on.
Yeah, maybe plug in headphones. That might help better if without an external speaker. So, yeah, I guess this is happening mostly on Facebook. Forgive me, everybody. I'm watching the Word Balloon feed or the YouTube feed. So we'll try and correct it. Here, while Tim is adjusting, let's look at some more fantastic Freddie Williams III images here of the comic. Look at that. Oof, fantastic. How about that? Granny Goodness there, making her mark, absolutely. So let's see. Deviant Pork says, it's the case where many writers on these nostalgia products will deconstruct, make it dark, and subvert the expectations. Again, we're only halfway through the story, man. And as Tim said earlier, you want stories should be provocative and upset your stability in reassurance of what you're reading. Because otherwise, as Tim said, it's just a list of tropes rather than a real story. You should be like, well, holy fuck, what's going to happen now? So that's my feeling.
I mean, it's actually kind of what somebody said before, was that people are too sophisticated. That's kind of a problem, right? Like, everybody has read stuff. If you're watching The Dark Knight when you're 8, what am I going to fucking do with Batman when you're 13, right? So, like, part of it is we have to do this stuff because you've all seen everything.
No, and by the way, your sound to me sounds much better. I'm hoping Facebook people, would you agree that Tim's sound has improved now? Please let me know. We're reaching the wrap up anyway, but I did want to Tim, you're also I want to acknowledge Superman Lobo hasn't started yet, has it?
August 24th.
Awesome. Outstanding. I can't wait for that story. And I know I saw you tweet a Batman panel from the story that looked really great. So,
I'm very, very happy. I just got the final proof today. It is one of my favorite things I've ever done. I'm very happy with it. It's going to be, I don't know, maybe people will get pissed off. I tried to make something that was true to both characters. So I think it's as true to Superman as anything I've ever done, because previous to this, I just wrote Injustice Superman, which is not exactly the Superman that I traditionally think of. So I try to make the most Superman-y Superman story I could think of, and the most Lobo story I could think of.
I look forward to it. I think it's going to be very cool. Dante says Kevin Smith has stated both Netflix and Mattel asked him to make it his version and a continuation from the original 80s series. I think that's what we got, man. Personally,
well, it's also, you know what, this is just it's actually really a continuation from the 2000 cartoon too, because they use tons of the stuff in there, like the sort of the setup for the castle. That's all from that 2000 cartoon. Sort of, I mean, there's a lot of stuff from the 2000 cartoon that's in the Filmation cartoon, obviously, but there's a lot of that cartoon in there, which I thought was pretty cool.
Understood. Roberts is excited. Anything Superman and Lobo together, they just play off each other really well. I totally agree with that, and I love the fact that Lobo can go toe to toe with Superman, and I think that is the most important thing. And it's, I mean, as we're talking, Superman and Lois, another episode dropped today. And that's what I like about the new TV series is this Superman can get hit. And it's not just, pushing planets and knocking people out and stuff. So, Andrew wants to know when we're going to see more Seeley Booth collaborations. Who's Booth?
Brett Booth. We did Bloodshot together.
Yes,
Man,
yes.
I actually... I had sent him a message maybe a couple weeks ago. I was like, if you ever want to do anything, just whatever you want to do, I will write it. Anything. I don't care. I mean, and he both, obviously he likes this stuff because he used to draw it, but we both really like that sort of Wildstorm stuff. I love that stuff. In fact, I try to put some of my love for that stuff in just about everything I do. As you'll note, Midnighter was in Grayson, and so was Grifter, and so I love that stuff, and I try to put those characters in. So I would love to do something with Brett. I throw it at him all the time, but he can also make his own shit, so he doesn't always need me. That's the other problem.
Dante wants to know if there'll be a Color Forms cover like they did of Man of Steel back in the 90s.
Man, I wish we could do that stuff.
That'd be a lot of fun.
That's awesome, but now you just have the problem that you'd ship it and you'd lose pieces and everybody get mad.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
It would just be a disaster.
Yeah. Well, and again, of all the different ridiculous 3D hollow covers and all that stuff, the Color Forms were a lot of fun. That's really funny. Michael Cooper says, it's tough to hit that sweet spot of reinvigorating a property, taking it someplace new, but still keeping enough elements of the original. I dug this new Masters of the Universe, but I get why some people might be disappointed. I agree. Without shitty, yeah.
I always try to throw out the thing is, these things exist on multiple platforms. If you didn't like this version, there are other versions. And you could easily check out, and there's tons you haven't read, I guarantee it. Check out something else. I guarantee if you had any interest in any of this stuff in here, if you like the idea of a barbarian dude in a fantasy world taking on a sci-fi thing, or if you like Skeletor's character, there are some great comics of Masters of the Universe. There are whole seasons. If you've never seen the 2000X era cartoon, it's great. I think it's just 2 seasons. It's really good. It's probably the best cartoon of its era. It was criminally underwatched. I totally recommend that if you haven't seen it. The Space He-Man cartoon is not that great, but it's kind of entertaining and as an artifact. If you want to check that out, it's pretty interesting too. But the DC cartoons are fantastic. Our comics are great. The guy who produced the show, Rob David, wrote a ton of them. A lot of the ideas that come out in this, if you liked them, do come from that comic. Rob put in tons of world building stuff. The Skeletor stuff is almost right out of the comic. So,
a couple other comments, because again, I don't want it to seem like we're just bashing the people that don't like it. The Wee says, I can see how people are protective of things from their childhood. I'm protective and very opinionated of George Lucas' Star Wars, so I can see why folks might be like that with He-Man. Nothing wrong with this. I've certainly been vocal about new Star Trek and my frustrations with new Star Trek. Again, I don't mind female-led characters and female-led stories, give me good stories. Again, I think He-Man is giving us a good story. I don't think it's happening in Doctor Who. I don't think it's happening in Star Trek. I just don't think the stories are very good. So, what are you going to do? And there you go. Even Louise is like, sadly, Picard's been a huge disappointment for me. Love Next Generation. There you go. God, we're only a couple weeks away from the next second season of Lower Decks, which of the new Trek, I have to say I like the most. But that's even kind of faint praise because they made 10 episodes and I liked like 3 of them. But at least they gave us 10 stories, so I was happy with that. And again, Deviant Pork, we can all disagree as long as we remember it's just a cartoon. No
Right.
big deal. Absolutely, man.
And for me, I'm the biggest fan of this stupid thing. I have an entire. If John has seen my basement, like it's just an entire wall of this shit. If I can handle it, I know other people can, and I'm enthused about it even. And so I think other people, we get older, things change. That's just life, and roll with it, and relax, watch Pig, watch Zola. Those are good movies. They're just movies. They're for adults.
To wrap up, Wayne wanted to know what's in your spinner rack, so I'll solo you out if you don't mind telling people. There's your spinner rack there at the left of your screen. There it is.
All right. So it's broke up a little bit. With the top is all my shit. So wait, let me do this. So there's my recent Harley Quinn and my action figure collection, which features a parody of Master Universe called Colt Noble and the Megalord. And there's some of my other stuff. And then it's just my favorite shit, like the first Ninja Turtles issue I ever got. Wait, here we go.
Cool.
Yep. And then the Fantastic Four arc where they get replaced by the Hulk and Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider.
Walt Simonson arc, yeah. I believe Walt and Louise on that one, yeah.
Wildcats, X-Men in there. What else we got? Stray Bullets, Captain America, Batman. I don't know. Just like.
Oh, that's great. Is that the John Byrne crossover?
Yeah.
That's great. I actually just bought that again because I had it years ago. And I'm like, man, I want that book. I really like that.
That's a great book. This also, one of my favorite and most underrated Captain America stories of all time is the Fabian Nicieza and Kevin Maguire Captain America Sentinel of Liberty, which is fucking awesome. And it should be, reprinted, but it's just kind of existed as that prestige format for a bunch of years. So, just weird stuff I like. There's some other, there's a section of porn comics in there. Danger Girl. Just things. This is my office. And so when I work in here, sometimes I need inspiration, so I grab it off the shelf.
I love it, man. Well, you're coming back, certainly maybe in time for the beginnings of Superman Lobo, but also because you're collaborators again on Superman Lobo. Tell everybody.
Well, the art is by Mirka Andolfo, and then my co-writer is Sarah Beatty, of the comedian Nacho Sarah on Twitter. She's a great comedian and pisser off of people, I guess is what I would call her. So I'll try to get her on. She's an instigator.
Yeah. You guys were on at the beginning of Money Shot, and I love Money Shot. It's one of my favorite books. And no, I think Sarah's very, very funny. And again, whatever, if she wants to come back, that's great. Her followers come on and juice my numbers whenever she's on. So
podcast. She did. The only one she's ever done is you, and then that Stephen King reread podcast. That's the only 2 she's ever done.
Wow. So. Well, I'm in good company. That's outstanding. So very, very cool. Tim, thank you. And truly, I appreciate you coming on and being a Masters of the Universe expert to kind of help me out and see what the problem is. And again, it's much ado about nothing, as it usually is. But everybody watching, thank you. It's going to be a fun week here on Word Balloon. I'm getting ready for Terrificon. I'll be leaving on Thursday, so there won't be a Word Balloon live probably tomorrow night. But God, this conversation will drop for the audio audience, and then also I've been promising for the audio audience that I will bring my talk with Stacey Souther, the filmmaker who made the Valerie Perrine documentary that's kind of making the rounds right now. Miss Tessmacher from the original Superman. And boy, what a career And sadly, right now, she's really suffering from Parkinson's disease. And I think it's both to give awareness of her career. You know, she got a raw deal from her career. I don't know if you ever saw this, Tim. She made that great Bob Fosse movie with Dustin Hoffman about Lenny Bruce.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, she played Honey, Lenny's wife.
That's right.
Okay, so she was nominated for Best Actress for the Oscars. And that year, her competition was Ellen Burstyn for Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore by Scorsese. Faye Dunaway, and I can't remember which Faye Dunaway movie it was. Diane Carroll for the excellent film Claudine, which is a great black comedy drama of the time. Oh, God, and now I always forget. Not Ellen Burstyn. Jenna Rollins. Jenna Rollins was also nominated. So literally, you had 5 women, and Valerie, 5 women in these exceptional movies by great filmmakers. Any one of them would have won, and you would have been, sure, that was the best of all 4. Like, literally, there wasn't a dud in the bunch. And one of the toughest years of competition, she lost to Ellen Burstyn. Ellen Burstyn won. And, of course, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore then became Alice, the TV show with Linda Lavin, of all things.
Oh, that's
so
right.
Kind of like how MASH inspired the MASH TV series.
Yeah, that's so weird. I forgot about that. Thanks for that weird bit of pop culture. That's really weird.
That's very neat. I mean, she was a beautiful, beautiful woman, in her prime. And, of course, she's great as Miss Tessmacher, and they play up how much of a bombshell she was in that. International fame. And then, sadly, the next movie, the Alan Carr flop, the disco comedy classic, Can't Stop the Music with the Village People.
Oh, that's right.
And the former Bruce Jenner.
That's right.
Oops. So, you know, and as I said to Stacy in our conversation, the disco acceptance window was so narrow.
Yeah.
They were about 2 years too late with that movie.
Also, it's a terrible movie.
It's a really, really bad movie. Yeah. And I mean, she continued to work really through the mid-2000s. She's in one of my favorite FX shows that only lasted 1 season, the boxing drama Lights Out. And she played the main character's mom and also Stacy Keach's wife. And really, really great. And so no, this is really a great conversation about Valerie. I want to bring attention to the documentary and to Valerie's GoFundMe as well, because she's given us a lot of joy over the years and a lot of really great performances and deserves your attention. So everybody look forward to that. And then also last week was Comic-Con at home, and I moderated the Neotex panel, and I'll bring you the audio from that as well by the end of the week. And then I'm doing Terrificon this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, Susan Eisenberg, who we're looking forward to talking about Masters of the Universe, she can't join us. But she, I believe right now of this recording, we are also going to have George Newbern and Maria, who played Superman and Hawkgirl from the Justice League cartoon. And I reached out to Mark Waid. I want to give a plug to Mark Waid because I'm like, can you think of a story where Superman and Hawkgirl are together? And he's like, 1981, DC Comics presents.
Yeah, Mark, of course he could.
Oh, but literally, man, not even an hour. I'm sure he blinked and immediately it came to his brain. Yeah. Sends me the comics. So I'm going to transcribe that, and I'm going to have them do a table read of that story. Great story. And in fact, Jim Starlin wrote the comic. So if you're coming to Terrificon, buy the issue and get George, Maria, and Jim to sign the comic book. So, you know, what the hell?
I'm envious of this. This sounds pretty good, man. I'm a little sad I'm not going. Also, completely okay with not going to any conventions just yet. But, yes,
I understand, man. No, and I won't deny I'm a little nervous, but I'm like, you know, as you know, Tim, we've been staring at the 4 walls for 17 months now, and it's like I could use a vacation, and all my doctor friends are like, "You've been vaccinated, you'll be fine."
Yeah,
and I'm like, all right. And I kind of feel that way too. So
yeah, I just have the kid. I can't enjoy things because I have a 2-year-old.
Yes.
If I gave her some shit, I'd feel bad. So
absolutely. And I have friends on the other end of the spectrum that are like, hey, I want to visit my parents. I don't want to risk anything. I'd rather spend a trip and see my parents, who I haven't seen for 1.5 years. And I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you at all. So anyway, there you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. I just wanted to lay out what's going on with Word Balloon. Next week, I'll have all these panels, and I've already done a lot of legwork. I can tell you people coming up that are definitely confirmed. Mark Russell Fantastic Four life stories and more. We'll be talking. Mark Guggenheim is going to come back, and we'll talk TV and comics with Mark. He's got a brand new creator-owned series that he's got coming up. John Ostrander is going to talk Suicide Squad with us just in time for the movie. I think I'm going to let the movie come out, and that week after, that's when I'll have John on and stuff. So just a few examples of some of the great people, including Tim Seeley.
By the way, I have seen Suicide Squad, and it's awesome.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's really it. I don't know if it's the craziest superhero movie. It's the most superhero movie I've ever seen. It's pretty awesome.
That's interesting. All right, fair enough. There you go. Let's keep that cryptic review from Seeley. Yeah, I'm excited, Roberts, that John's coming back. I love John. I've been talking to John for really. John was a 2005 original Word Balloon guest, and I really have admired his work. And so many of our favorite writers love John, and really were inspired by John's output, especially in the 80s. So that's always, and he's one of the kindest, gentlest men that I know, and very, very modest. And
you gotta ask him about there's that new Del Close documentary, I think, where they talk about Wasteland. Was that for Mad Men Only or whatever I think it's called?
Wasteland. No, DC's been re-releasing it. I've seen on Comixology, and I hope that means we'll get a new collection of it.
Yeah, I really want a nice hardcover of Wasteland. That would be cool.
One of the best horror comics of the 80s that, if you weren't aware of it, could easily slip from the radar because it has not been reprinted since its original run. So I really hope that it is going to come out. Oh, by the way, here's some final comments. Tim is the bomb. I still cherish the X and Green page I got at C2E2 a couple years back. And thanks for signing my course stuff.
Thank you. Yes, I like the timsbomb.com. That brings back memories. That's, I think, an old joke, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, man. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great week, and we'll reconvene next week with some of these great guests in August. Until then,